This tiny component, a microcontroller, is the beating heart inside almost everything that runs our modern lives. Your smart thermostat, your microwave, the anti-lock brakes in your car, and even that adorable talking doll. It is a marvel of engineering, a brain smaller than your thumbnail. Yet it operates under a fundamental, unshakable law that governs its entire existence, a law we rarely think about, but one that forces every developer, every coder, every digital architect to become a ruthless minimalist and a strategic genius. The core limitation of microcontrollers is a life sentence of fixed on-chip memory. Unlike the generous sprawling metropolis of a PC or a laptop, where you can easily pop open a panel and slip in another stick of RAM or a new terabyte SSD, expanding your city's capacity on a whim, this little powerhouse is a meticulously designed vessel that was launched and sealed at the factory. The memory you get is the memory you have forever. There is absolutely no option to upgrade or replace RAM or storage once the chip is manufactured. And this hard limitation fundamentally alters the game, turning the simple act of coding into a high-stakes, hyper-efficient exercise where we are forced to work efficiently and make the most of every byte available, because in this tiny digital world, every byte matters, every bit is sacred, and every wasted memory address is a failure of design, compelling us to move beyond mere programming and into the realm of digital choreography, where understanding the internal memory layout of a microcontroller becomes not just helpful, but essential, a prerequisite for survival in this constrained yet infinitely powerful environment. To truly appreciate the artistry required to work within this self-imposed confinement, we must first accept that to maximize limited memory space, we must first understand what types of memory exist inside a microcontroller and what role each one plays. Recognizing that while these memory types may sound familiar to anyone who has ever opened a computer, spec sheet RAM flash registers, their behavior and constraints differ significantly from those in general-purpose computers, shifting their function from simple storage to highly specialized purpose-driven departments within our microscopic digital corporation. Imagine, if you will, that the CPU is the CEO, and surrounding that CEO are a series of distinct operational teams, each with a unique specialty and a rigid set of rules defining their capacity and speed. And at the pinnacle of this organization, the absolute fastest, most immediate responders are the registers, the fastest storage, the essential pit crew operating right at the heart of the CPU, functioning as the smallest and fastest memory units available, temporarily storing data, instructions, and addresses during execution, serving as the immediate scratchpad for the CEO, where data doesn't just travel, it flies, because in the digital world, time is quite literally a measurable distance. These registers fall into several critical categories. You have the general-purpose registers, the versatile assistants used for calculations and temporary data. The crucial special-purpose registers, the key holders like the program counter, which tracks where we are, the stack pointer, which tracks what we're doing, and the status register, which tracks how we're doing. And finally, the essential peripheral registers used to control the external hardware modules such as timers, ADCs, and communication interfaces, acting as the control knobs for the world outside the CPU, and the size of each register often determined by the CPU's word size ranging from 8-bit to 32-bit, with some advanced MCUs supporting even larger registers for specialized operations, dictates the maximum immediate data the CPU can process in a single tick, emphasizing their scarcity and immense value. Pivoting slightly from the instantaneous work of the registers, we move to the CEO's sprawling dynamic bullpen, the main operational floor. RAM, the temporary working memory, which comes next in the hierarchy of speed and size, serving as the volatile workspace of the microcontroller, the place where all the immediate real-time action occurs. RAM stores runtime data such as variables, buffers, sensor readings, the constantly changing data that defines the current state of the system, as well as the stack and heap used for function calls and dynamic memory allocation, serving as the essential meeting rooms and supply depots for the running program. Think of RAM as a vast digital whiteboard. It's incredibly fast to write to and read from, enabling rapid calculations and seamless function execution, making it the ideal place for the system's short-term memory. Yet it comes with a dramatic caveat. All data in RAM is lost when power is removed. The ultimate volatility that makes it ideal for temporary storage but entirely unsuitable for preserving any information across power cycles. If the power blinks, the whiteboard is instantly wiped clean. forcing the system to start over, relying on the permanent blueprints stored elsewhere. And this brings us to the repository of permanence, the place that defines the MCU's mission, its core identity, its very existence. Flash memory, where the program lives. This is the non-volatile sanctuary, primarily used to store the firmware and constant data, the sacred text where the program code permanently resides. If RAM is the volatile whiteboard, flash is the etched stone tablet, the long-term, archival memory that retains data without power and supports firmware updates, making it ideal for the long-term storage of the program itself. The trade-off, however, is speed. Flash is fundamentally slower than RAM, and more importantly, it comes with strict, unforgiving rules on how data can be erased and written. You can't just change a single word in a flash memory block. You generally have to erase an entire page or sector before rewriting new data, a process that is both time-consuming and inherently introduces wear and tear. This inherent friction forces the program to treat flash as a read-mostly environment, accessed only when necessary and protected at all costs. But what about the tiny, critical pieces of information that must be saved across power cycles, but must also be updated frequently? Things like the last known setting of the thermostat, the calibration values for a sensor, or the Wi-Fi credentials? This is where we introduce the luxury component, often omitted due to cost but essential for longevity. EEPROM, preserving critical data, which is another form of non-volatile memory designed specifically to store these small but important pieces of data generated during runtime, such as configuration settings or calibration values. Its superpower, the feature that differentiates it from flash, is that unlike flash, EEPROM allows byte-level read and write operations, making it perfectly suited for frequently updated data without the need to erase massive pages of memory. It's the digital equivalent of a ship's captain's log, a durable, dedicated journal where daily updates can be quickly and safely logged without rewriting the entire navigational charter. Yet, due to cost and complexity, many microcontrollers omit EEPROM entirely, which forces the developer, our ingenious architect, to confront a significant design challenge. This is where the story pivots from mere architecture to a brilliant display of digital ingenuity, demonstrating how constraints breed true innovation. The necessity of emulating EEPROM with flash. In microcontrollers, without the luxury of dedicated EEPROM, the architect must find a way to repurpose an existing resource, so a portion of flash is utilized to store persistent data. This ingenious workaround is not simple because flash cannot be overwritten directly. It requires a complex, multi-step special routine that is essentially a digital ballet designed to manage flash's limitations while maximizing its lifespan. The process unfolds like this. First, new data is written to the next unused location within the designated flash block. Second, the outdated data is immediately marked invalid but not actually erased. And third, only when the memory block fills up with a mix of valid and invalid data, the entire process pauses. The valid data is copied to the high-speed volatile RAM for safekeeping. The entire flash page is then erased, the digital equivalent of a massive cleanup, and finally, the valid data is written back to the newly empty page. This intricate, wear-leveling process is necessary to manage flash, severely limited write cycles, and ensure the longevity of the critical persistent data, forcing the program to work exponentially harder to achieve a basic function, illustrating the true cost of that initial fixed memory constraint. Now, as we stand amidst this diverse collection of operational units, the lightning-fast registers, the volatile RAM whiteboard, the archival flash library, and the cleverly repurposed flash as EEPROM logbook, it would seem like a chaotic mess of competing speeds and rules. Yet, there is a unifying principle of memory that brings order to this entire miniature cosmos. Despite their differences in speed, volatility, and function, all memory types share a common, elegant structure. Data is stored in words, and each word has a unique address. These addresses are the secret language, the master map, that allows the processor, the CEO, to locate and access data efficiently. Whether that data is sitting in a speedy register right next to its core or deep inside a massive slow-to-access flash page across the chip. Every location from address 0 by 000 to the final byte is part of a single continuous numerical sequence. This process is called memory mapping, and it is the magic that ties everything together. Setting the stage for what's next, with this foundational understanding of registers, RAM, flash, and EEPROM established, The true genius of the microcontroller is revealed. We can now explore how all these memory regions are mapped into a single address space, and how the processor navigates and uses them together, moving seamlessly from the immediate to the permanent, all while adhering to the iron law of its finite physical limits. This digital architecture is not just a layout. It is a philosophy, a masterclass in prioritizing, compromising, and maximizing utility from inherently limited resources. The profound lesson here is not just about silicon and code, it's about life. The microcontroller with its fixed architecture is a perfect metaphor for the human condition. Like the chip, each of us has a fixed, finite capacity, a fixed amount of time, fixed energy reserves, and a finite capacity for attention. We can't simply purchase more time or upgrade our brain's RAM. We must become microcontroller architects of our own lives. Think about your own memory systems. Your registers are your immediate core focus, the three things you absolutely must do in the next hour. They are fast, few, and critical. Your RAM is your weekly calendar, or your physical disk. It's volatile, constantly changing, perfect for temporary projects. But if you shut down for the night without writing things down, the data is lost. Your flash memory is your long-term values, your deeply held beliefs, your most critical skills. It's slow to change, requires a massive erase-rewrite effort, a life-changing decision, or a year of dedicated study. But it is the permanent non-volatile program that runs your life. And your EEPROM? That's your daily journal, your gratitude list, your essential configurations, small, high priority, frequently updated data points that save your state across your daily power cycles. Sleep. The most important takeaway is the concept of emulating EEPROM with flash. When we are faced with a fixed limitation, a shortage of time, a lack of money, or a gap in skill, the path forward isn't to complain about the missing resource. It's to ingeniously repurpose what we do have. When you can't afford a dedicated solution, EEPROM, you must become a master of the workaround, flash emulation, using your available resources. Even if it demands a more complex, wear-intensive routine like waking up an hour earlier to pursue a passion or spending an extra year to self-study, a skill instead of paying for a course. The great lesson I take from the microcontroller is that constraints do not limit ingenuity. They demand it. My advice to you, the viewer, drawn from the wisdom of this tiny chip, is to know your address space. Audit your life's memory map. What are you assigning to your valuable RAM, high-energy tasks? And what are you permanently etching into your flash, long-term goals? Stop treating your volatile RAM, your attention span, like permanent storage, trying to remember every small detail. Instead, use your flash, a robust habit tracking system, or a consistent journal to save your essential data. Furthermore, learn to respect the write cycles of your own resources. Do an erase and rewrite your core mission every few weeks. Flash has limited cycles, and so do you. Choose your updates wisely. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive today. Wishing you all the very best of health and happiness. And if you found this journey as fascinating as I did, please consider hitting that subscribe button and ringing the bell so you don't miss our next adventure into the heart of technology.